Hello, guys. Concerning Senator Natasha and Akpabio's case, for now, nothing, everything don't pause until court go fix date for their matter. But I saw this piece of work. They said Natasha is winning simply because of the hatred Nigerians have for Senator Akpabio and National Assembly. Woman Gesu. Who be guess? I'm just hearing her name for the first time. They said she's a prominent political activist and a former vice presidential candidate of the Young Progressive Party (YPP). Now she has waded into the controversy surrounding Senator Natasha Akpotioduaha recent sexual harassment allegation against Senator Godswill Akpabio. Gatso dismissed the claims as politically motivated, suggesting that they lack credibility and are strategically timing. Can you imagine? In her critics, Getso noted that the widespread public support for Natasha stemmed from collective sentiment than from concrete evidence. She believed that Nigerian public's existing disapproval of Akpabio and, by extension, the National Assembly has clouded objective judgment, allowing Natasha to gain sympathy in what she viewed as a questionable case. Guys, can you imagine? Now, woman, I dey talk this one so. Let me answer. Natasha case, the sexual harassment case, nobody said that Natasha is innocent or that Akpabio is guilty. You know how our people they talk, say clear conscience fears no accusation. Just like what everybody they talk. If you know you are not guilty, it's a question of submit yourself for investigation. So this woman now where they talk, say Natasha did this, Natasha did that, a woman, does she know that Akpabio refused to submit himself for investigation? I was saying Akpabio initially when all these things start, as a man of integrity, when he claimed to be, submit himself, do the right thing, submit himself for proper investigation. All this long story for no still dey go on, for no still dey linger. And again, do I need to remind her? Akpabio wey she dey wan support Akpabio now. We saw everything, how everything take play with the day Akpabio suspended her. Most of the senators was against it. Though because of say they no get liver, they fear make them for no lose their seat because of their own selfish interest. They refuse to speak out. We saw how the session went in the Senate. Even when Akpabio asked the question to be suspended and all that, if you're in support, say eyes. If you're not in support, say nails. The nails were higher than the eyes. But Akpabio went ahead to flow with the eyes. That was not even loud enough. But these senators, then, because they no get mouth, they don't sell their conscience. They refuse to speak out. This lady where they support Akpabio, so she even watched that one. We don't even need to talk too much. Just one of the accusation, the abuse of office, which Senator Akpabio as in show very well when he was carrying out that suspension exercise. So, as in when I dey see some people, they talk some kind things there, I go dey imagine. Moreover, this is not fellow woman. You call yourself political activist. You know see who you want fight for. Now politicians now you want fight for Abi. Abi na Yahaya Bello you want fight for. Nigeria we don't finish. When we say people go dey open eye, they support the wrong thing. That is a problem. You go open eye, they support the wrong thing. Natasha don't tell everybody, Nigerians, say for courts, when they don't reach court, she will submit every of her evidence. So we dey wait make the case go court. And she una still know say, as in, una won't tell her, be na this same lady. She say na Getso. She this same Getso, Madam Getso or whatsoever. Do you know that Akpabio's lawyer right now, they beg Senator Natasha, make them settle out of court so that may Natasha for no fit submit all those are evidence. Do you know that? All the senators the way they support Akpabio, how many of them they talk again? I beg, Nigeria will get a long way to go. Now, just God go help us. So I'm going to drop some of the reactions anyway. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Subscription is for free, just for you to be getting updates as we're dropping it sharply. Guys, bye-bye. See you in my next video.
In this regard, what the petitioner had said is that based on that press briefing, whether it was before Natasha was sent out of the National Assembly or not, gives an impression that the chairman of the committee has a particular understanding of this issue and could be said to be biased, on that issue with due respect, sir. And that is what my client is raising. And so that is why we are saying we are ready to proceed. An oath has been taken. We have our witnesses ready. And the principal witness is Senator Natasha. Our intention is that if we are going to proceed, we think the chair of the committee should please step down from this conversation to allow for fairness and justice in accordance with the constitution of this country.
You know, we wondered indeed what it was like for you to be at that committee, and in fact that you asserted yourself in some areas in support of your client. As at this morning, there are reports that your client has been notified of a recall process duly submitted to INEC, and I know that these will be our line of discussion this morning. But before anything, how is Senator Natasha doing?
Well, Senator Natasha is doing very well. Her spirit is very high. She's a very strong woman. I so much respect courage and conviction over what she believed in. She's really up and high. She's not in any way thinking that she should change her stand. So she's standing where she's standing, still saying that she cannot be silenced by anyone. And we're standing with her in solidarity, because whether we like it or not, we are all Natasha, and that's why we're giving that pro bono support, to as a council in this matter.
I mean, we just saw again the shouting match between Mrs. Obi-Ezekwesili, former education minister, as well as our senator representing Ebonyi, not Peter and Webonyi. It's going to go viral as for forever. And in fact, you're coming at that point in time to make, a further request that the chairman of the committee should step down, which we hear that he has actually stepped down. That's Senator Emma Swen. And now that the seating in terms of probing this particular allegation within the Senate has been suspended. In fact, the Senate says that the case has been closed. What are you doing?
Well, the Senate said the case has been closed, but however, they are deferring to the case that is before the court, which was the defamation matter, which was brought against Senator Natasha by the wife of the Senate President, Senator Akpabio. So we're expecting to take further steps in that regard, and we believe that the court will do more justice in this regard than what would have gotten from the committee. It was obvious that the committee was biased. The whole action there was premeditated. They had a game plan, but they didn't know what we were coming with. And of course, when we came in there, we were asking for something that we feel that any reasonable panel would be able to agree with. It's just a call for justice at any point in time. When you feel you're uncomfortable with a member of a panel, there are almost 30 people in that committee, for goodness sake. They have a deputy. It has a deputy. What is more honorable than when you feel that such situation is on, that you should be able to step down when people address issues of integrity. So we expected that the chairman of the committee would be able to do that. It was not the only one there. There were about 10 of them. So he could have assigned one of them and just remain like a bystander, on that day. But he refused. He insisted. And the second point was also that, when the old incident started, and we addressed it clearly, the National Assembly does not have any form of record, any formal processes that anybody who has a case like the case of sexual harassment can pass through. And that was where the first crisis started. So she had applied and filed a petition by herself. She said, no, she can't, that somebody else had to do it. So she had done that with, someone else. So now you had also refused, to let that person proceed because you were insisting, that you don't want to allow fairness and justice to take place in this matter.
Thank you so much, Ma, for once again being on the program. I reckon with you how challenging this, navigating these waters will be. Now, I'm saying this basically because on that said day, an unfortunate incident happened where there was an altercation between a member of your team, talking about Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, and a senator, where very horrendous words were used. My question, however, is this: has the senator made any attempt to reach out to your camp, perhaps to smoothen things out in terms of apologizing and all of that? Has any of that happened?
Well, we saw a lot of newspaper publication where he said he would, where he's talking about apology because Dr. Obi Ezekwesili is as old as his mother and all of that. But we saw that day. There are things that, because this also raised a lot of issues in terms of, the kind of trainings that we have, for when people are growing up. Dr. Obi is a highly respectable person in the society. She's someone that could have, that was actually nominated at a point in time for Nobel Peace Award. She was a vice president of World Bank. She had several, accolades, for goodness sake. Beyond that, she's also a person, that is well respected. She's also a person that is well respected, in the society.
I'm thinking that, some of the things people said on social media and even off was that it also gives, with that incident that happened, played out there at that committee meeting, it gives you a sense of what certain individuals may go through, like your client have to deal with in the National Assembly or in the Senate, as the case may be. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the Senate. The Senate is a respectable institution in this country and has highly respectable individuals as senators. But do you feel that has given you an impression of what your client has to deal with, or has had to deal with over the course of a period in the Senate?
Not only my client. If something like that happens at that highest level of institution in the country, then you will know that there is a problem. One, because it raises a lot of issues around gender, how people view women and what they think they can do, how they feel that they have the right, to silence women, subject them to the culture of silence. It also talks about a system that is not working. Because if systems are working, processes are supposed to be right. So, and if you noticed, even after Senator Natasha's incident at the National Assembly, there's been about 2 or 3 in the last 1 or 2 weeks. So something is so clear that something is not right in the National Assembly, and there's a need to put things in the right way. Because if you don't have the highest level of lawmaking, doing things right in the country, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult, for us to be able to get to that level.
Yes. Council, I also need to put this in very quickly because it's important that we look at both sides of the situation, though the senator or senators are not here to speak on their behalf. But then some would say that there has been some sort of inconsistency with Senator Natasha and her testament, particularly when you look at the issue of the suspension. That happened not necessarily because of the accusation of sexual harassment, but that happened because of her misconduct on the floor the day she was asked to change her seat from one point to another. And when she went into the international community, what she said was quite different, that she was suspended on the basis of her sexual harassment petition against the Senate president. Please, can you help us understand this so that Nigerians who are battling with, understand really what is happening here can take a stand?
I think it's important for us to put some of these issues in perspective. The issue of the seat took place on a Thursday. On a Friday, Senator Natasha, was on television to say what she felt was the reason why, her seat was being changed. Up to today, Senator Akpabio has not told us why that seat was changed, why she was the one to have a changed seat for that day. So a discussion in the IPU came up, later. Now, the analysis is this. Sexual harassment is one of the most grievous kind of sexual offenses
that, has been noted, across the world. And it's one of the kind of offense that is also not very visible. They say it is coded. You can be in a bus with someone and is sexually harassing you. There have been things that were happening before between them, that showed that she was being targeted. She was a chair of local content. She was removed. There were times she had gone to put things before the leadership of the Senate and she was rejected. At times, when others were traveling, she was not allowed, to go on the trip by, like others. So there were issues. So what happened on that day, was made her to understand that she was being targeted, and the only reason why she could be targeted was because sexual advances have been made, to her, and she rejected those advances. So there is a connection between you. So there is no inconsistency whatsoever, in what we saw there. Our clients believe that the reason why that action was taken by Senator Akpabio on that day was because she had turned him down, previously. And that was the connection in the whole conversation. And if you look at most cases of sexual harassment, it's always like that. Somebody wants to take something away from you because you had refused, to allow it. And from the conversation that Senator Natasha had, she had made it clear that at several times she was being offered something, in return. And that is, why it's important. And when we have sexual harassment matters like this, the first thing is to believe the victim. Is to believe the victim, first. And yes, of course, there are issues of you have to prove your case and all of that. But we need to believe the victim. Senator Akpabio was not the only person in the National Assembly. So if he was not in contention, she could have mentioned somebody else's name.
All right.
His name was mentioned. And she also talked about incidents where this happened. And some people were there. The Senator Peter was saying that he was there. So it wasn't as if it was cooked up. So there was an incident which brought both of them together in Akwa Ibom.
All right. Mrs. Ofalabi, I'd like for us to situate this, one, as a counsel to the person that's in the eye of the storm at the moment, as well as the generality of Nigerians who are paying attention to what's going on at the Senate and looking at how all of this will pan out. One would wonder if at any point in time your counsel had thought, or did she ever make any move to report the Senate President to the Ethics and Privileges Committee of the previous advances made at her by the Senate President before the shouting match took place? If not, what did she tell you was the reason why she didn't?
Well, there is no procedure in the National Assembly. By now, we should know that. There is no procedure in the National Assembly to report sexual harassment. And if there is a procedure, it's not clear. Now, let's look at the scenario that we have at hand. When she broke the news about the sexual harassment, they said she had to report to the Ethics Committee. Now, the Ethics Committee says you can't report by yourself. You have to report by another person. So you can see that the procedure is not clear. So even if you have such allegation that you want to make, there's no procedure with which you can make that allegation. And mind you,
sorry for interjecting.
Yes.
Sorry for interjecting, ma'am.
No.
Sorry for interjecting. I think we need to get this correctly. What the Senate said with regards to that and what we have heard, it's about the fact that a petition should not be signed by the petitioner itself, not necessarily about the sexual harassment. We need to put some clarity on that, isn't it? Those are two different things.
Let's be clear. Now, a petition of whatsoever, whether it is sexual harassment or any petition whatsoever. And I argue that I am sure that those who made that law, that was not the intention. Those who made that law were not looking at situations like, and that's why we said rules have to be looked upon, because there should be lessons in this whole idea, in this whole discussion. They must have been talking about whether there's something that you need your constituency to get, and that's why they're stopping, the person bring the petition for not to bring the petition. But in this instance, issue of sexual harassment is personal. It's about the person who is feeling that he is being harassed.
So you would expect that it's that person that can make that kind of petition. Now you have asked a third party to submit a petition on behalf of someone who is saying that I've been sexually abused. So there's something that is not right in the process. And I argue that that was not the intention of that law. It was not speaking to issues like the issue of sexual harassment, because people would assume that would, and you had all the senior female senators saying that when you are in the Senate, this is not supposed to happen. So they were not thinking that sexual harassment or sexual abuse will be an issue that a female senator will want to bring. And I want to remind us that years back when Dino Melaye also made some utterances against the current First Lady, Senator Tinubu, she had nowhere to go. She didn't know what to do. She could not lay a claim because I was in National Assembly, also at that time to protest against that conduct. And I had a conversation with her. She said they advised her to go and speak with the Senate president at that point in time. So meaning what it means is that there was no rule. All right. So she had to walk to the Senate president's office to make that complaint. And when she got there, she met Dino Melaye and others. She told me that, by herself when I was speaking to her. So there was no rule. That's the truth of the matter. All right. There is no rule to do with the issue of sexual harassment. So coming to now talk about ethics and all of that, issues of misconduct, they needed to be clear about which form of misconduct can the ethics committee take.
All right. Now, I want this one to press on a very personal note. You, the council, as a woman, I'm also a woman, and we have women in the Senate. One would have expected that ordinarily she should have the support of the women in the Senate, but that's not what we seem to have. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Why would you think this is so?
Well, now, I try not to make it a women issue. Context is always important at every point. Now, the Senate, there's a lot of things about the people who are in power in the Senate and what they do in terms of making decisions. Yes, they all come together, they all come as equal, but once they had decided to say, these are the people in the leadership, whether you are a chairman of committee or you are the Senate president, you have some kind of level of privileges that is a little bit higher than the others. So the women in the Senate also have to respect that power dynamics. So we cannot expect that they are going to react to appear as if, they are reacting against, the institution itself. So, and that's why I think we don't want to make it a women issue. So their context may not, allow them, to come out. People need a lot of courage. And it's not everybody that has the kind of courage like the courage of Natasha, to